Hello, everybody. Welcome to our channel. Uh, this is Web3 Protocol Africa. On here, we take a concept as related to blockchain protocol. We take that concept and we try as much as possible to break it down and to explain it for easier understanding and for better understanding here. So, my name remains Emmanuel Ifediora, and a blockchain enthusiast and also a protocol engineer in this space. So today we're going to be talking about the concept of nodes, right? What is a node? What are they used for, right? So we'll be talking about that and what exactly does a node entail? Like, I know that some of you might be asking that question because maybe for some reason you've been hearing about nodes here and there, and maybe that question pops up in your mind, that what is a node. So that's why we are here, to demystify this concept and to make you understand what they are, right? So without further ado, let's jump right in here. So exactly is a node, right? So a node is basically a computer, right? A computer that runs some kind of software. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Ethereum blockchain as a typical example. So a node is simply a computer that runs an instance of a software, or that runs a client software according to Ethereum blockchain here. So in Ethereum blockchains we have client software that need to be run on the node for it to be a node, right? So for a computer to be a node, you can't just pick up a computer and all of a sudden it becomes a node. No. For a computer to be a node, it has to run some kind of software on it for it to be a node. So speaking of those softwares, so this software actually client implementation. So when we talk about what a client is basically simply a implementation of either the execution specs or the consensus specs. So the execution specs has to do with how transactions are being handled, and how transactions are being handled, how transactions are being processed, how the EVM works. So that is what goes on the execution side or the execution specs. That is what it's about. So when you talk about the consensus specs has to do with how blocks are being builded, how blocks are being proposed. That has to do with consensus. That's consensus mechanism and all of that. Yeah. So these two aspects now of Ethereum, they all have their sort of implementations because they were implemented in softwares, right? So the execution specs has its own client implementation, and also the consensus specs has its own client implementation. So when you bring this client implementation together and you run it on a computer, that computer could actually serve as a node. So that is what, in the simplest terms, that is what a node is, right? Yeah. So having understood what a node is, I plan not to make this video I plan not to make it long. So having understood what a node is, I think in our next session I would run a node. Yeah, I have a PC that I don't use often, so I would install both the execution client on it and also the consensus client to see how, for us to see how this thing works, right? Just for us to see how a node runs. So let me just show you an example of both an execution client and a consensus client. So we have there's get execution client. So this is get execution client. So here it says Go Ethereum. So it says this is the official Go implementation of the Ethereum protocol, right? Yeah, so if you read further, let's open up the documentation. So it says get Go Ethereum is an Ethereum client built in Go. So this Go Ethereum is an execution client, right? So for you to have a full node, you actually need an execution implementation such as get and a consensus implementation. So let me open up a consensus implementation. Let's see, Prism is one. Prism consensus client. So Prism is another implementation that was also written in Go, which is but it's a it's a consensus implementation rather. Yeah. So this is the docs for installing Prism. Yeah, so this is actually a software. So when you install this on a computer and you also install the Go Ethereum client or any consensus or any execution client rather, you have a node. So that is, in basic terms, that is what a node is, right? So let's not forget there are other client implementations as well. Like we have REST client, which is an execution client that was implemented in Rust programming language. Then we have Lighthouse, which is a consensus client that was implemented in Rust also. Then we have Besu. Besu is a execution client that was implemented in Java programming language. Yeah, and also we have Teku. Teku is a consensus client that was implemented in Java also. So these clients, don't let these clients, it's basically software. So these softwares, when put together on a computer, makes that computer a node. That is what a node is in simplest terms, right? That is what a node is. So a node is basically a computer that runs I'm speaking as regards to Ethereum now. So a node is basically a computer that runs an instance of Ethereum client software. That is what a node is, right? Yeah. So thank you for joining. Hopefully next week I'll try my best to do a demo of how to install the get and also run it, and how to install the Prism client and also run it. So subsequently what I'll be doing is in my videos, what I'll be doing now is I'll try to play around with get, try to run it on my server and also Prism, just run it on my server. Then I'll try out Ret, which is the execution client implemented in Rust, and also Lighthouse. So I'll just be trying this client implementation to get a feel of it, to see how it works, right? Yeah, so thank you very much, and do have a nice day.